All right. And we're back. So some technical difficulties, some more. But Noah, go ahead and kick us off again. Tell us why they are better.
I can't fake that passion twice, so I'm just going to lay it out plain and simple. I think that last year's team won 76 games, and they probably shouldn't have. I don't think that team was that good. I think they kind of played above their potential. I think this year's team won 76 games in spite of the situation that the front office put them in. Last year's team was added to and made better through free agency and through trades. If you look at the guys they acquired in season and before that season, those guys made an impact pretty much the whole time they were there. You could pick and choose a couple of individuals, but overall they got more bang for their buck out of that group as opposed to this group, which actively hurt them from start to finish. And then you add in the mixture of guys that were supposed to come in at the deadline and help, and they were non-productive. And the fact that this team still managed to equal its win total, to me, in a weird way, shows that, yes, there is more talent because they overcame having no help. Had last year's team in 2023 had as many flops in free agency, had as many guys just straight up not perform to expectations, the Jack Sawinskis, the Henry Davises, the Brian Hayeses, they wouldn't have won 70 games. They would have probably lost 100 again. So I think that in a weird way, it does show they're getting better. I think the better conversation to have with this narrative is they're not getting good enough because they're going to stay around this number until everything pieces together. But overall, yeah, I think they did get better. It's just that the areas where they were supposed to receive help never came. And that's why they finished at 76 wins again.
All right, cool. Adam, shoot.
Yeah. I think they got better in the sense that they added Paul Skeens to the roster. They got better that they added Jared Jones to the roster, probably ahead of schedule. They got better because O'Neal Cruz played a full season of baseball. And then I think that's where I draw the line. I think getting better is relative. It's relative to what you have within the organization and what's around you. This was the prime time to take a step forward in the NL Central. You have the Cardinals who are not cardinaling anymore. You have the Brewers who are a good baseball team, but they're not the best baseball team. And you have the Reds who haven't picked a direction till now. And then you have the Cubs who have taken a step back. But I'm afraid that window where those teams have taken a step back is gone. Everyone is taking a step forward and making changes except for the Pirates. Ben talks about internal development. Noah mentioned Brian Hayes, Henry Davis, Jack Sawinski. I know we got him in a trade, but if we plan on getting these guys better and working from within, you need the coaching staff to do that. You need the culture to do that. And they haven't been able to even get a glimpse of that in the past 5 years. And based on what they've done this year, last year, and ever going back to 2019, I don't think they have given fans any reason to believe that a change is coming. I mean, you talk about trying to better the team and you add BDLC and IKF, who is a Swiss Army knife for a good team, but you've done effectively nothing that is going to improve the roster that you already have. And that's why they're not improving.
I like it. All right, Scott, you're next.
Yeah, I just want to touch on a little bit of what Noah and Adam said. So I agree with Noah where they're probably not, they haven't improved enough, right? They're not good enough. You can make the argument that he overperformed last year, for sure. But you have a team this year with Paul Skeens, Jared Jones, and then a full healthy season of O'Neal Cruz, and you win the same amount of games as last year. That's where I feel like this year was a massive disappointment. I viewed this club in an 78 to 82 win team, slightly above last year. I think the big issue is player development. I said on the last Bucco Bantr episode that we talk a lot about, you hear Ben say the words improvement, internal improvements. I mean, you heard that in the first 2 months of the season when Rowdy started off slow, when Jack started off slow, when Henry started off slow. You're banking on improvements when this ball club has no track record of developing their own guys, of improving their own guys. And that's where I'm pessimistic going forward. And I'm not really expecting a massive improvement next year. Maybe 80 wins, but is it a playoff team? I'm not sure, depending on what happens in the offseason. We'll see.
All right, Doug, finish us off.
Well, I find it interesting that all three of you say that the Pirates are improved, yet then give 10 reasons why they're not improved. Yes, I think they're in better position than they are, and that's because of Paul Skeens. That's because of the way O'Neill Cruz finished. That's because Brian Reynolds had his best season since 21. So yes, if you add to that, fantastic, they could be better. If you develop, they could be better. But there are no indications. We don't add, and if we do add, we don't add well. As Noah pointed out, it could have been a better team, but we had a worse offseason and a bad trade deadline. I don't have any confidence in this management team to get the best out of this team. I don't have any confidence in Ben Cherington, even if he's allowed to spend money, that he'll spend it wisely. And also just Cherington can say they're better, but he should at least say, I think we've improved in certain areas, but we didn't win any more games. So ultimately, as Bill Parcells says, I think he quoted Parcells earlier, you are what your record says you are. They did not improve. And it's hard. Like I said, a better position. I don't think, but I think we all three agree. This team's not going anywhere. Nobody. I'm not inspired. I don't believe. So I'd have to say that they're it's the same old Pirates.
I'm afraid Doug's pandering to me right now, and I'm watching you, Doug. Go ahead, Scott.
I don't know if I have a rebuttal, just an additional point too. I think you could make the argument that this team has just as many questions going in the this offseason as last offseason. I mean, you move O'Neill Cruz to center field, and I think that's a good long-term plan for O'Neill and for the organization. But who's your everyday shortstop? Who's playing the corners in the outfield? Is Reynolds to first base going to be a successful conversion? I don't know. But you definitely can't go into next year with BDLC and Brian Reynolds as your corner outfielders with O'Neill in center field. And is IKF an everyday shortstop? I'd rather see him in more of a, utility role, starting in different positions depending on who gets rest what day. So that's my main concern going into next year is there might be just as many questions going into this offseason as there was last offseason.
Noah.
Yeah, I guess I'm confused on the definition of this question because the question was, is this team better? It's not, is this team going to better fit for a playoff run? Is there progress? That's not the question. Mm-hmm. The question was the 2024 team better than 2023? And I think if we went in a time machine and we took the 2023 Pirates and we brought them to the North Shore now and they played a best of 7 series against the 2024 Pirates, the 2024 Pirates would mop the floor with them. Simply because of the reasons we've already stated. They have better pitching, and that's all it comes down to. So that's why I answered the question the way I did. I agree with everything that Doug and everyone else pointed out. Yeah, they're not going anywhere as things currently stand, and that is the bigger issue at hand. But if we're answering the question of if they got better, they were a better team this year because they had more talent. Their record is exactly the same, but like I said, this was a more talented team that underperformed as opposed to a less talented team that overperformed. And that defies why I said it was a better team. Doesn't mean it's a good enough team. Doesn't mean it's a team that we should all believe in. But that's why I think they're better this year because they had better players. They just didn't get a better win total.
Fair. Adam.
I guess it comes down to what Ben Cherington in the front office defines as better, because that's all that it's going to be unless necessary changes are made. And I agree with Doug. Your record it's who you are. And if you don't have a single more win than last year, you are not better in the eyes of the entire league. Here's the difference between why teams like the Guardians, the Diamondbacks, the Rays, teams that are similar to the Pirates in terms of payroll and small markets, this is why they get better. The Diamondbacks made the World Series last year. The Diamondbacks had a winning record this year. Today, the Diamondbacks, and they didn't make the playoffs, the Diamondbacks fired 3 of their pitching coaches today, including Mike Fetters. Shout out. The Pirates fired Andy Haynes because they pretty much had to, and they fired the bullpen coach because they got to point a finger somewhere because Bednar wasn't good this year. So the same guys are running the helm. They're just making little tweaks to keep dragging us along until you get the same result. So unless you make drastic changes and you're willing to adapt, you're not going to get better.
All right. Good stuff, guys. So take a look at the scores right now. Doug with 8, Noah with 10, Adam with 11, Scott with 9. Still pretty close. Anyone's game right now. We have one more round until we get to the final one. The top 2 scores advance. So to the last topic here. News broke last night. The Cincinnati Reds in division, right? In division, just moments after the Pirates said we're going to hang on to Derek Shelton, and Ben stamped it. He said, I vouch for Derek Shelton. The Reds didn't vouch for their manager. They let him go, and they made a big move last night. Terry Francona is coming into the NL Central. However, not with the Pittsburgh Pirates, as I know some people wanted. It's with the Cincinnati Reds. So I ask you a couple things here. What I want to know is, for one, what is your take on managers, and do they move any real needle, right? Like, does a manager really is responsible for making the team better with wins and losses and such? And also, do you think this is going to make the Reds more competitive and something for the Pirates to really look forward to, I guess I should say, for Pirates fans? So let's go ahead and start with Adam.
A manager absolutely matters. And shout out to Noah, shout out to Scott. We were in Toronto earlier this year, and we were talking about Francona rumors and the possibility of him coming to Pittsburgh. And then it was a pipe dream. It's like, why would he ever do that? You know, he maybe has like the Pennsylvania roots, but why would he come here? Nobody knows what's really going to happen. And then boom, a division rival that has the same situation as you, maybe worse because they really weren't picking a direction where they were going, finally makes a commitment to a winning culture. And I've mentioned it time and time again on our show. Culture is the most important thing in sports. Building a locker room, being able to have the guys build off each other, build the overall support. And it sometimes takes one guy. And I look to what former Pirate Austin Hedges, out of all the people, said this week about Stephen Vogt on Chris Rose's show. He said, why do you like Stephen Vogt, and why does it work this year for a rookie manager? And he said, that guy is consistent. Everybody rallies around that guy. You could find peace in that guy. You could find confidence in him. You could find support. It's a 162 game season, should be plus some. There's a lot of dog days in the summer, a lot of days where you might not feel like coming to the ballpark, where you're a human being and you might not be having the best day. You need that manager to rally around and be able to pick your guys up and believe in him in order to keep moving forward. And you see that with guys like Francona, who's been a manager for 23 years, has 2 World Series, 3 pennants, has a .538 winning percentage compared to what we have with Derek Shelton's .294 and .414. And we haven't finished better than 4th in the division all year. So yeah, a manager matters. If you're seeing the same thing over and over again, and you haven't had one guy come out and say like, hey, we love playing for Derek Shelton. We think this is a guy that we could rally around and push us to the next level. I know he hasn't been given the best rosters, but you have to make with what you have. And they just haven't, I hate to say this, gotten better with that guy. So it's disappointing seeing him go in the division, but yes, a manager matters.
All right, Doug, go with you next.
Yeah, I mean, he matters on so many different levels, right? The first thing, if we would have hired Terry Francona, it would have given immediate credibility, right? Bob Nutting, if Bob Nutting made the hire, he'd get immediate credibility. We'd have a little more faith in him. If Ben Cherington had made the hire, we'd say, all right, Ben Cherington has sort of realized the errors of his ways, and he has brought in this guy that's going to get the best out of this team, this guy that is going to create a winning culture, a guy that's going to hold people accountable, a guy that's going to communicate, right? We would feel so much better as a fan base. In a long season, what do they, maybe they make a difference in 3 or 4 games, literally. But that culture setting, that establishing the accountability. I've been listening to a lot of talk about AJ Hinch, and look at the job he's done in Detroit. Detroit sold at the deadline, and he still rallied them and got them to the playoffs. He was a great manager in Houston. It does, and again, it's that day-to-day. Baseball's a long season. They're around each other every day, all day for 6-7 months. and you need somebody to, again, just sort of set a tone, create the culture and master the environment. And clearly we're not getting that. And Francona would immediately like to just elevate just how people outside the organization see us, how the fans see us, and I think the players inside. I think it'd be easier to get free agents to come here. Not that we're necessarily pursuing any, but I think he'd make such a difference in the intangible ways that this team has lacked. I'd like to get Noah's time machine and not go back and have the 23 team play the 24 team. I'd like to go back and make sure Bob Nutting didn't buy the team. Do something a little more significant. But a manager definitely matters, especially. Again, so many of them are interchangeable, right? Some of these guys, they're managing their third team. It's the same result. But Terry Francona is definitely one of the better ones out there, has got a proven track record, and he certainly would have been an upgrade here.
All right, let's go ahead and go to Scott.
Yeah, I definitely think a manager matters, just differently than he used to matter, I guess, in the game. It's definitely a different game nowadays with the evolution of analytics and everything like that. But I think most importantly, the manager impacts culture, like Adam mentioned before. And I think Francona would have been a nice addition culture-wise in the Pirates organization, because I feel like that's something that they lack is culture. And it sucks to see him go somewhere in the division. Yeah, in a way, I'm a little bit jealous of the Reds organization too, because it feels like they're a little bit more aggressive in terms of making changes and going into the free agent market. Like, they're not making big splashes, but they do go out and they sign Heimer Candelario for 3 years. They go out and sign Nick Martinez for 3 years. We don't see the Pirates making those types of moves. And then they go out, they fire their manager, who is a Cincinnati guy, David Bell, and they bring in Terry Francona. Yeah, I think culture is a big thing. And I saw Rosati tweet yesterday that I don't know if anyone fact checked this, but Shelton might be the only manager since Gene Mauch who has gone into his 6th year without a winning season. Is that correct? Was that the tweet? I think so. Accepting mediocrity is what the Pirates do best, I guess.
Only 1 point for that, simply because you quoted Jim Rosati. So, Noah, you're next.
Fair.
All right, full disclosure, Doug hit on a lot of the points I was originally going to make. I actually literally wrote the word credibility on here. Credibility, I think, matters. So, but for the interest of this show, I'm going to be the one to take the counter stance here. And allow me to start with this. Who says Terry Francona wanted to be here, first off, right? I mean, it would be great for the Pirates if he wanted to be here. It would also be great if Shohei Ohtani was playing in the lineup too. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. Just because a guy is from New Brighton and it makes sense and he would make them better doesn't mean you can force him to be the manager. And honestly, why would Terry Francona want this job? Sure, he could coach Paul Skeens, but he's going to have to work under the ownership limits that exist. And he's seen how things have gone for people in the past, which brings me to my next point. Terry Francona has achieved a ton, but let's take a look at the organizations and what happened before him and after him. He inherits a really good Boston Red Sox team that needed to get over the hump. And sure, Tito played a role in that, right? But at the same time, what did they do after they left? Well, the next 2 guys who held that job also won a World Series. So maybe it was just he had a really good front office and he was able to, hit the right buttons. So credit to him. Let's take a look at Cleveland. He leaves Cleveland. How are they doing this year? Oh, they're not playing right now because their record was so good. They didn't have to. They had a bye. So maybe Terry Francona is very smart and takes managerial jobs with good front offices. And it doesn't matter who your manager is if the guy running the show at the helm is not providing you with good talent. You could be a 5-star chef, but if I'm giving you ingredients from Family Dollar, you're not going to make me a gourmet meal. That's why a manager doesn't matter.
Come with the heat. All right.
Yeah.
Let's get some rebuttals here. Let's start with Adam. I don't know. Scott looks eager to get on that mic.
I was just gonna say that maybe Francona wasn't the right man for the Pirates. Like, I know a lot of people are going on Pirates Twitter upset about the Francona hiring in Cincinnati. I myself am pretty upset about it, but that doesn't mean that he was necessarily the right man for Pittsburgh. Like, and Gino, just being honest, I like Derek Shelton as a guy. Like, he seems like a good guy, but I don't know if he's the right man for the Pirates job. Like, he could be eventually be a good major league manager, but is he the right man for the Pirates job? I don't think so. And I think that's fairly obvious at this point. But I do think the Pirates would benefit from a experienced manager who's been there, who has maybe worked in this scenario. And I think that's why Francona may have popped up his name, because he went to Cleveland, he got the most out of his guys, and he brought them, they went to a World Series in 2016. So, I don't think we need to harp so much on Francona himself, but the fact that the Pirates might need to eventually pivot to a guy who's been there.
Fair. Doug.
Well, it's true. I mean, it's tough to say would he have wanted to be here and how much difference he could make, given that, Ben Cherington would be his general manager and Bob Nutting would be the owner. Like I said, the game is different. Again, a manager probably overall in a season can win you a couple games, probably can lose you more than he can win you, really. Neil on our show often talks about what do you expect Derek Shelton to do with this roster? So it's true. I think what stings about it probably is that he went to Cincinnati, that Cincinnati is more aggressive. All these teams that are like the Pirates in similar situations, they're winning in the margins. And like I said, I tweeted this out before. The Pirates' biggest problem is that payroll is not the biggest problem, right? That's the only thing we should complain about. We should say, man, this team, 5 years into a rebuild, we should be talking about how great this team is and how everything's going if we could only go get to that big free agent. But we're talking about base running and fielding and, not having a shortstop, not having a first baseman, not having corner outfielders. So how much what could Tito do here, right? If he can't play first base, or if he can't close, or if he can't play shortstop, he can only make so much of a difference. So I agree with Noah in that. But again, just watching a team make changes. We are in the same. We've last place 4 out of 5 seasons and 4th in the other season, and we're sticking with the status quo. We fired a guy whose job was to answer the phone in the bullpen and say, "Hey, get up and warm up, David Bednar." I mean, that's what the bullpen coach does. Like, the pitching coach is the guy that fixes the pitchers, supposedly. So we fired the strength and conditioning coach. There's one at My Crunch Fitness. I mean, it's like, come on, we've made no significant change. And why do we expect, that Terry Francona can come in and make those kind of changes? So fair points there.
All right, Noah.
Yeah, I just want to point out also, didn't Ben Cherington fire Terry Francona at one point? So maybe that would be another reason why he wouldn't want to work here. That's something that probably should be brought up, right? Just the other part of it is just like I said. I mean, I totally agree with Doug. Had the best point, I thought. Aside from me, everything I say is the best. But aside from me, Doug, when he said credibility, credibility does matter, and that's what Terry Francona would provide. But just because someone did something well in the past does not mean they're going to do it well in the future.
I would argue we bring in.
I would argue our country has been run by maybe people of a certain age that need to pass the baton to younger leaders. And you can make the argument that maybe that should apply for sports organizations as well. The last time a notable manager came out of retirement to take over a team with a lot of talent, one that rings a bell to me was Tony La Russa. How'd that go? And I'm not saying that, Tito would be pulled over with a DUI within like 2 months of being hired like Tony was. But I'm just saying in general, this doesn't always work out best case scenario. And when there's a whole bunch to fix, rather than coming into an organization that has, for lack of a better term, its shit together, then it's going to reach a boiling point with someone who's already achieved so much. This guy's going to be in the Hall of Fame if he hasn't already. He's proven everything. He's won his World Series titles. He doesn't need the extra headache. And if he were to take this job and see how big of a mess it was, he might just say, screw it, it's not worth it, and mail it in. We don't know how invested he would have been. It's not the slam dunk that everyone thinks it was going to be.
All right. Neil, geez. Noah coming with the heat there. Adam, finish us off.
Yeah, I think everyone made some great points. I think Doug made a really good point on we're mad because change didn't happen. I don't think we're necessarily mad because the Pirates didn't land Tito. I don't think we're mad because of the payroll. We're mad because we don't have certain guys plugged into the lineup. But it didn't have to be Francona. It could have been Schumacher. That's a young guy who's coming out this year, who's probably now going to have the pick of where he wants to go. Would it have been Pittsburgh? I don't know, but it does help to have a guy with experience that guys respect. As we mentioned earlier, guys, there's a recipe in this league for winning. I mean, you do need the talent. You do need the right coaching, but there's a way to do it. And if you could go to a guy that's been there before and it's like, hey, what's it like to play in game 7? Or what's it like to coach in a game 7? What's that feeling like? What do you get? Like when you step out on the field and the lights are bright and the stands are packed, like our guys don't know that. And if you get a little bit of taste of that, maybe it pushes them to the next level, even with the same guys that you have on the roster. If you're not making those necessary changes, a guy like that can propel you maybe to a couple more wins. Maybe he could push you to a wild card, which gets you in, just like the Tigers are making a run now with AJ Hinch and a guy who's been there, a guy who knows how to win. The thing that AJ Hinch said that was televised, he said, I asked you guys at the halfway point what type of team you are. And then when they won the playoff series, he said, I guess you're a playoff team. We don't have guys that can buy into that. We don't have guys that can look to a guy and it's like, oh, I don't know what type of team we are, but I know what he's been through and I know what the success that he's had. And like, we want to get to that level. We want to prove ourselves. And I don't think Shelton can do that. I don't think anyone on this coaching staff can do that. And that's why this is upsetting, and because we didn't make a change, no matter what the change was.
All right. All good points. All good points. And I know we're going to have a lot of discussion about this entire offseason. It's just begun. It's crazy. Pirates offseason is already off to a fiery start, and it's October 4th. But with that being said, we do have ourselves some leaders. So, Doug, you are gone. Sorry, buddy. Got to get the elimination here. And Scott,
I'm going to
you're
storm the
also
Capitol.
Gone. Got to give you the elimination here. What did he say?
Look, I'm going to storm the Capitol. I'm not endorsing this peaceful transfer of power. I lost on my home court, for crying out loud.
I'm going to East Washington Street, Newcastle.
With a question in my the next question's right in my wheelhouse. I tell you. Expect some pictures of me with my feet up on somebody's desk, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, look out.
Oh my God.
Good job, guys. It was fun.
That was fun, Doug.
Don't leave though, Doug. Don't leave. Yeah, Doug seems kind of unhappy here. But with that said, so our final showdown does come down to Noah and Adam. Congratulations for moving on here. So we're going to talk about, as Doug said, his favorite conversation, Mitch Keller. So Mitch Keller has now had back-to-back seasons with over a 4.2 ERA. Last year in 2023, looking really, really good. Kind of broke down at the end of the year. 2024 started off looking really, really good again. Mitch Keller's back. We're fine. Kind of breaks down at the end of the year as well. So my question for you guys, and I want to have your input here. What are your maybe expectations of Mitch Keller for 2025? And is this someone that you can maybe trust in a playoff rotation? Let's go ahead. It's tied. So I'll say, let's go ahead and start with Adam first.
Mitch Keller is a guy who's going to eat innings. Mitch Keller is also going to be a guy, if things work out the Pirates want, he's going to be a 3-4 starter. A guy that's going to give you 6 innings almost guaranteed if he's able to keep it up and not have these meltdowns at the end of the year. And I'll give him that doesn't push well for the playoffs if you're making a deep run and he's losing stamina and he's not able to eat those innings. But his K rate is there with the MLB average. For most of the year, for May, he had a 1.30 ERA, June 2.35, July 3.60. So really, the argument is that's great. Mitch Keller throughout the summer is awesome. The argument is, can he keep that success going into the end of the year? I think so, with the right support around him. He's not going to have as much pressure on him moving forward with Skeens, with Jones. If you have Chandler come up at some point next year and succeed there's not going to be more expected out of him than eating 6 innings a game, eating possibly 7 innings a game, giving your bullpen a much needed rest. That's so valuable. And we've seen it time and time again this year where the bullpen has been taxed and they're out of arms. And then Mitch can go 7 innings and give guys a break. That holds a ton of value for a playoff team as well when you're getting through your 1 through 3 starters and you need a guy to eat those innings. It's really just the stamina thing. If Mitch can get it together, and I think with the right guys around him, with run support, getting ahead of the 8 ball here, he definitely can be relied upon. But yeah, you have to recognize the fault with maybe losing a little bit of steam at the end of the season, going to that cutter, leaving it up in the zone a little bit and having the tendency to get hit hard. Not great. But for the most part, his stuff is good. And for a 5-year, $77 million contract, being a 3 guy, a 4 guy potentially, that's excellent.
All right, Noah, take the floor.
Yeah, I guess I'll start off by saying I think that Mitch Keller's struggles this year were partially a product of him kind of having to jump through the same hoops and go through the same routine that the kids had to go through. I think Mitch Keller is a better pitcher when you allow him to pitch on 4 days rest like a big boy. You look at his numbers this year, he had a lower innings pitched. He was just less utilized. And I think where we saw the funk hit, you could argue that, oh, it's the second half like last year. I think when they cut him short in Chicago and they pulled him after a couple of innings, and then he had an extended break like they gave Skeens, he wasn't the pitcher sense. I think this is a guy who needs to stick to his routine. And when you look moving forward with the way they build up Skeens should be able to handle 200 innings next year. So they might be able to pitch Paul on 4 days rest. That's going to make Mitch Keller better, in my opinion. Now, how good do you need Mitch Keller to be? That was a big discussion that Adam had. I agree to a certain extent with when you consider what they have coming. I think Oviedo is going to be really good next year based off of what I've been hearing and just the size that he's put on. I think Chandler has a higher ceiling than Jones right now, which is truly saying something. So if you really factor that in, you might not need Mitch Keller to pitch if you're in a wild card round of the playoffs, or it may be even the NLDS if it all unfolds completely ideal because you're going to want Paul Skeens to pitch. But what value does Mitch Keller provide? Mitch Keller could be the best 4th starter in Major League Baseball. That's value right there. What value does Mitch Keller provide? Mitch Keller is the unquestioned leader in that pitching staff. He helped Luis Ortiz learn a brand new pitch mid-season that made him a different player. If you look at any time they pan to the dugout during a game, who's standing next to Mitch Keller when they're all not pitching? It's the 2 most important, valuable pieces to this franchise. It's Jared Jones and it's Paul Skeens. And you can bet your bottom dollar that Bubba Chandler is going to be right over there next year as well. That's why Mitch Keller is important. So how good can he be? What's the problem with him? I don't know. I mean, he regressed a little bit last year or in the back end like he did last year. That's certainly an issue. No doubt about it. But when you look at it, what they need him to be is more than just a pitcher. They need him to be a leader, and he provides that.
All right. Adam, you got your work.
I mean, he absolutely provides a veteran presence that this team absolutely needs. But here's the thing with a long season. The best ability is availability.
Yep.
And Mitch Keller provides that every single week for the Pirates. He's able to go out there. He's able to eat innings. He's able to stay healthy. And guess what? You might get to a wild card round where he doesn't have to pitch. Or you're going to have guys like Skeens and Jones and Chandler fighting for you to get to that wild card round. And then Keller's got to step in. And I would much rather Keller step in than a lot of guys in this league. He finished I think he was like 16th overall in ERA. And that's going to be your back of the end rotation guy, the guy that you could look to and hand the ball, who's going to be a veteran behind guys that are already going to be able to go hopefully 6 or 7 innings at a time. Absolutely. Mitch Keller's that guy. And like Noah said, you need that veteran presence. They really don't have it on the offensive side of things. If he's able to groom these, like Chandler and Ortiz, who could potentially stay in the rotation or move back to a long man role, that provides a ton of value as well. So Mitch Keller has a spot on this team. Absolutely. I think he's a necessity moving forward. The big thing going through this offseason is making adjustments in the pitch selection, potentially working with the same guy more often, recognizing what's working for you and what's not. As I mentioned earlier, he went to the cutter a lot at the beginning of the season, a lot, and it was not working. Had an expected batting average of 317 on the cutter alone. And he kept going to it for a while until we hit to like that end of May, June point where things started to click. And then he kind of went back to it at the end of the year. So it's maybe staying a little bit more consistent with the pitches that are working for you and being able to make those adjustments. But Mitch Keller is crucial to this Pirates team moving forward.
Noah.
Yeah, another point I feel like we haven't hit on is Mitch Keller, and I think part of it might just be because we haven't seen things unfold for the other guys yet because they're all so young. But the way Mitch Keller pitches, he's showed the ability to adjust over time, right? He used to be a stuff guy. Now he's a horse, right? An innings eater. And you look at, he's got the deepest pitch arsenal on the team. Are they all as nasty as Skeens' Splinker or Jones' Slider? Absolutely not. But the way that he's been able to adjust, that's why you give a guy like that an extension, because as he ages, he's going to find a way to become continue to be a productive pitcher. Is he your ace of your staff? No. But winning teams have players like this for the reasons that we've already listed. And just, yeah, like I said, his ability to continue to adjust his game. Like Adam mentioned, the cutter was a problem this year. He'll figure out a way to get that better, or he'll nix it and add something else in. And just his ability to continue to adjust on the fly, to overcome adversity. He can be the shoulder to cry on. He could be, the workhorse where you put the team on your back for a little bit of time. There's just so many different things that this guy provides. Is he your best player? No. Is he your best pitcher? No. But winning teams have players like this. And it's just rare for maybe Pirates fans to recognize this because they haven't won a lot of games recently. So they don't have a ton of players like a Mitch Keller. But that's why you sign a guy like that, someone who can be steady, be reliable over time, and make your team better.
Good stuff, you two. Good stuff. So for everyone out there watching us on YouTube, the poll's open. Go ahead and choose your winner for tonight between Adam
Stop the count.
and Noah. While the poll's still, I'm going to keep it open for a little bit longer, right? So you guys can select. So I'm going to give you two the floor, right? For all the undecided voters right now. Adam, tell us why. Oh, Noah, what's up, Noah?
Yeah, I would like to go first, just for the simple point of.
No, you have a ball in your hand?
Hold on.
Yeah, I'm
the only one that can do that?
I'm taking the ball.
All right.
All right. My point of why I should win, I think Terry Francona would have been a great hire for the Pirates. I made up a counter argument off the top of my head just so this show wouldn't be four people glazing a 65-year-old from New Brighton. I came up with a whole new narrative, and I changed some people's minds in this chat. I found facts, because that's what journalists do, and I presented them, and I dropped a bombshell on this thing. I've said a lot of things I actually disagree with, just to provide a counterpoint and an argument. And I think that is the beauty of, and really the disgusting element of debate shows in today's world. So that's why I should win.
This is the guy you want in the locker room covering the team?
Yeah. We're not talking about me as a journalist. We're talking about me on this show.
The guy who's just admitted to spreading fake news to the great Pirates fans that it took the time to watch this amazing show. Noah's great. I love Noah. Noah made a ton of great points. Noah is a constant guest on our show, and we love having him. And why I should win? I'm not in the locker room. I don't have this inside knowledge, but yet I'm still able to articulate what's going on and able to reason with what is out there and how Pirates fans are actually feeling, other than maybe like a jaded Noah on the other hand. So
aren't you a lawyer?
Shut up, Noah.
Oh yeah, shouldn't you be kicking my ass in this? But okay.
This is not my job.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to give you guys 5 more seconds to vote, and I'm shutting it down.
Sorry, Noah.
Those are two very good arguments. I'll give you that. But here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, done. So, fellas, Noah is your winner tonight with 77% of the voting. Congratulations, Noah. Doug, you're still here. I don't see it's the capital
Anything on
yet.
Keller?
Scott. Hey, I just want to say this, guys. There were some difficulties here. There were some things we had to get past, but amazing show to kick this off. Thank you all for joining us. Any last words before we get out of here you guys want to say?
I'm still here.
This was fun.
No,
Thanks for having us.
Really fun. Can't wait to do it again. Congrats, Noah.
You guys
Do
all
I
did a
get
great
my
job.
do I
Way
get
to
my
go,
final
Noah.
minute like PTI?
Oh, yeah.
You know
Or
what?
the confetti?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or around the horn. Yeah.
I forgot about that
Yeah,
little
around
thing.
the
So sure.
I just want to say, you got to believe it's your turn. You got to believe it's true. In Pittsburgh, not Jacksonville, we believe the Pirates will come through. You got to believe, baby. I don't, but some people got it. Thanks for having me on, guys. This was a lot of fun.
Hey, awesome. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for watching. We'll be back in 2 weeks. So again, the point is every other Friday with 4 new contestants, most likely. So until then, we'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hey, you all.
Peace.
Thank you for watching. I know
Take
we
it easy,
try to
guys.
provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page, it helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucks.